Ever need to replace a lower control arm? Let's talk about it. Hey there viewers, today we're looking at a 2020 Ford Fusion. Came in with a lower control arm problem. You ever had to do a lower control arm on one of these? Tell me about it, drop it down in the comments. Symptoms of a failing control arm can be a little bit of play in the steering, jerking when you hit a bump, can't get it aligned, uneven tire wear, just to name a few. Now some cars have an upper and a lower control arm, and then some use the strut as the upper, so it doesn't actually have an upper control arm, it just has a lower control arm, which is the case here. Just to give you an idea what goes wrong with these, you can have rubber decay where it'll either crack or flake out in this area, around this area, or sometimes you actually have a ball joint issue, which is a separate issue. First things first, we're gonna take off this wheel, 19 millimeters. The issue on this one, as you can see, is joint separated off the control arm. You can see right in there where the flashlight's shining, where the bushing has actually detached from the control arm. If we look back a little further, we can see where the rubber is distorted. I believe in this particular case, we'll be able to get away with taking off the tie rod end and removing the lower ball joint and knocking it out of the knuckle. I think I can actually leave the knuckle in place. We're gonna try that first. The bolt that goes to the ball joint is 15 millimeters. You need an 18 millimeter nut on the other side, so you need a wrench to hold that. 18 millimeter for the rear mounts, 21 millimeter for the front mount. You can usually take a pry bar and get it in that little split of the knuckle and kind of pry it out a little bit so that you get that ball joint out of there. It also helps if you've got a leverage bar like this one, pull the ball joint out of socket. There we go. With a little ratchet strap under here, I can pull this forward a little bit so that gives me a room to get to that lower control arm. It's not gonna work. Mind you, this is a little bit of a shortcut. Typically you would disassemble this entire assembly, pull the knuckle off, and then slide it out. But a lot of times you can get enough room in here to get the job done. It is worth noting that the sway bar also rests on top of this rear bracket. So sometimes you can get lucky and you can squeak it by without taking all this stuff apart. That does not look like I'm gonna be that lucky today. Two 18 millimeter bolts remove the caliper bracket, remove the rotor. That gives you better access. I believe I can take this dust guard off and that'll give me enough room to pull this out. 8 millimeter bolts. I'm desperately trying to avoid having to remove everything. I don't want to take that knuckle off if I can help it. I believe that'll give me enough room. I have some 7 millimeter bolts in this fender well. Give me a little bit more play so I can better access this connection. Oh yeah. The fact that that pocket has pivoted is actually causing me an additional grief because now it's angled and the loop is catching the bottom of the bung and it is hanging up. I'm gonna have to pull it all. Bummer. Tie rod end's a 21 millimeter and a 10 millimeter to hold the stud from spinning. Hold that up. 32 millimeter nut for the CV axle. She is frozen solid in place. A little tap. We're gonna get the air hammer on that one. That ain't cool. Axle out of the back. I'm down to the knuckle. 23 millimeter. Give him a little love tap. There's one. That's two. The knuckle comes off. Now, slides right out, no problems. What was hanging me up is this part right here. You can see where the rubber is degraded and what was happening. And the reason I couldn't do the shortcut on this one is because this was catching the bung that normally sits right here. And so flexing it down wasn't an option to slide it out. I had to literally make it completely level in order to pull it out of there. Normally, you could actually do this job a little quicker if it wasn't for the fact that this actually rocked right out of its socket. Now for the new one. Lift the sway bar up a little bit. And like that, we are back in place. Put our bolts back in the front one, out the back too. Good and tight. There we go. Those bolts tight, we can put our knuckle back on. Slide it on the ball joint first. We can actually put our ball joint bolt through right now. Go ahead and get our CV axle back in here. I always like to put a little white lithium grease in that CV axle. Make sure I've got a easy slide in. CV axle nut back on. Get some nuts back on the back of those strut bolts. Now these kind of press fit into place, so you got to beat them on the back with a hammer to kind of get them started, and then you can actually drive them down with the impact. Careful not to hit that brake hose. Good and tight. Pull that CV axle in, and then we'll come back and torque that to spec. Tighten up that ball joint, tie rod end. Go ahead and put our ABS sensor back in. 8 millimeter bolt. Careful not to over tighten this, you'll break it. Put our dust guard back on, which as it turns out I didn't need to take off really. I suppose it made things easier. Again, not too tight. Those little tiny 8 millimeter bolts. Now's a great time to check out your brake parts and make sure you don't need any brake work. Also, it'd be a good time to check your hub assembly, CV axles, stuff like that. Make sure you don't have to do anything else while you're here before you get this far, actually. According to the old spread gauge, we're right inside the brake margins. CV axle is going to get torqued down to 148 foot-pounds. That torqued up, we put our wheel back on. Always start lug nuts by hand. Make sure you drop a lug nut. Get that on the ground, torque it up. Well, I hope this video helps. This is actually kind of a worst case scenario as far as that lower control arm goes. Usually you can do this job a lot quicker by taking that little shortcut. Not an option on this one because of the condition of that bushing. As always, I hope this video was informative. If you have any questions or concerns, drop them down below. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe.